This is the Machiavellian lens. Respect isn't requested, it's enforced through access, consequence, and scarcity. Contempt doesn't happen to you. It gets assigned to you. That's the first cut you need to make. Clean, no anesthesia. Because the moment you think contempt is just their attitude, you start doing the weakest thing a man can do in a hierarchy. You start negotiating for value. And value is never negotiated. Value is demonstrated, enforced, and priced. Here's what you've been taught by movies, by soft men, by people who survive through approval. If someone treats you with contempt, communicate. Explain how you feel. Ask for respect. That advice is a loyalty trap dressed up as morality. It turns you into a pleading applicant in your own life. It turns your dignity into a request form. Contempt is not a misunderstanding. Contempt is a verdict. When someone holds you in contempt, they've already decided where you stand in the food chain. That's why their tone changes, why the jokes sharpen, why the interruptions increase, why they start doing small humiliations like it's casual. They're not having a bad day. They're testing what you'll tolerate while keeping access to you. And if you tolerate it, you teach them a rule. This is how you can treat me and still keep the benefits. That's why contempt becomes a pattern, because patterns are trained. Understand the predator logic. Predators don't attack what bites back. They attack what freezes, explains, apologizes, and hopes. Contempt is the mark they put on prey to see if it sticks. The most dangerous lie. I'm a good person, so people should respect me. No, respect isn't paid to good. Respect is paid to power, standards, consequences, and scarcity. A man who's nice but easily accessed becomes public property, and public property gets handled roughly. People don't treat cheap things with care, so stop moralizing it. Stop telling yourself, I don't deserve this. That sentence is a lullaby. It keeps you asleep while your position is being downgraded. Instead, look at contempt like a strategist. It's information about your current rank in their mind. It's a signal that your boundaries are unpriced. It's a symptom that access to you is too easy. When contempt shows up, you don't fix the relationship. You adjust the power equation, because contempt isn't about love or hate. It's about permission. They do it because they can. They do it because your presence is available even when you're being disrespected. They do it because you keep showing up as if nothing happened. That's not maturity. That's surrender wearing a suit. Here's the lens shift you need. Contempt is a tax. They're charging you a humiliation fee for the privilege of staying in their orbit, and you've been paying it, sometimes with forced laughs, sometimes with silence, sometimes with a long message explaining what you meant, sometimes with extra effort, trying to prove you're worthy. That last one is the worst. When you try harder after contempt, you confirm their story. You're beneath me, and you know it. Contempt survives on one resource: your need to be seen as fair, kind, reasonable. That need is a chain around your neck. It makes you predictable. It makes you governable. So chapter 1 is not about confidence. It's about replacing a slave lens with a sovereign lens. A sovereign doesn't ask, why are they like this? A sovereign asks, what did I allow that made this profitable? Because contempt is always profitable to the person using it. It gives them control, emotional leverage, and status in the room at your expense. And the moment you see it clearly, you stop reacting like a wounded man and start moving like a commander. You stop chasing respect. You start making disrespect expensive. That's where this goes, but not yet. First, burn this into your head. Contempt is not something you endure. It's something you correct immediately by changing access, consequences, and your posture in the hierarchy. That's the lens. Without it, every tactic you try later will look too harsh. You'll sabotage yourself to stay likable. You'll choose comfort over dominance, and contempt will stay, because the world doesn't reward the man who deserves. It rewards the man who enforces. Contempt isn't a mood. It's a construction. It gets built the same way regimes get built. Small violations, repeated, normalized, then enforced by an audience. If you don't understand the mechanism, you'll fight shadows, arguing about tone, while the real system tightens around your throat. Here's the core truth. Contempt is created through a compliance ladder. No one starts by spitting on you in public. They start with a test so small you feel petty reacting to it, a late reply, a joke, a subtle correction in front of others, a dismissive look, a boundary pushed half an inch. The first move is always plausible deniability, the perfect weapon against men who want to appear reasonable. Because the moment you challenge it, they can play innocent. Relax, I was kidding. You're too sensitive. I didn't mean it like that. That's not conversation. That's a trap mechanism designed to make your standards look like weakness. Step 1. The probe they throw a low-cost disrespect signal and watch what you do. If you laugh it off, you sign the permission slip. If you explain, you signal you're negotiable. If you get emotional, you look unstable. If you freeze, you look domesticated. They're not judging your words. They're judging your nervous system. Predators read the body first. They want to know, does this man enforce or does he adapt? Step 2. Boundary erosion. Once you pass the first probe, they escalate by inches. The contempt becomes more casual. The interruptions increase. Your presence becomes something they use, not something they respect. They start forgetting your time. They start correcting you like a subordinate. They start handing you roles: helper, listener, errand runner, emotional landfill. You think you're being patient. They think you're being trained. Because every time you stay after disrespect, you teach them. Access to you is not conditional. And that is the foundation of contempt, unconditional access. Step 3. Reward removal, devaluation. Then comes the most important part. They remove the small rewards you used to get, warmth, attention, appreciation, and replace them with coldness. That shift is not random. It's leverage. It triggers the weak reflex in you. What changed? How do I get it back? Now you're chasing. And chasing is the posture of a lower rank. The more you chase, the more they feel justified in holding you in contempt. They don't respect what begs. They respect what can walk away without noise. Step 4. Social proof, the audience seal. Contempt becomes permanent when it gets witnessed. One joke in private is a test. One joke in front of others is a claim of dominance. If the room laughs and you stay, your status drops publicly. This is why contempt spreads like infection. People borrow the strongest person's posture. If they see you being handled, they learn you're handleable. That's the audience seal. And if you try to repair it with explanations later, you look even smaller, like a man filing paperwork after being conquered. Step 5. Narrative control. Finally, they write the story that justifies their contempt. You're dramatic. You're insecure. You can't take a joke. You're needy. You always make things a problem. That narrative is not meant to convince you. It's meant to convince everyone else not to respect you. It's reputation warfare. So now you see the machine. Probe right arrow, erode right arrow, devalue right arrow seal with audience right arrow control narrative. Once you recognize it, you stop treating contempt like an interpersonal issue and start treating it like what it is. An extraction system, stealing your status, your time, your calm, your identity. And that's why talking it out fails. You can't negotiate with a mechanism designed to convert negotiation into weakness. Contempt doesn't come from people. It comes from types. If you keep thinking every disrespectful act is personal, you'll stay reactive, surprised, emotional, improvising in real time. That's how amateurs die in politics. Strategists categorize first, then respond. Because each archetype uses contempt for a different purpose. And if you misread the purpose, you'll choose the wrong countermove. You'll try to prove yourself to someone who is feeding on your proving. You'll try to build peace with someone who survives by war. Here are the primary contempt archetypes. Learn them like weapons manuals. 1. The tester, boundary engineer. This one doesn't hate you. This one measures you. The tester uses contempt the way a locksmith uses tools, quiet, methodical. They drop small violations to see what opens. Their goal is simple. Find your price. They'll make jokes about you. They'll ignore a request. They'll take a liberty, then watch your reaction like a scientist. If you push back cleanly, they often retreat and even respect you more. If you adapt, they escalate. The tester isn't emotional. They're opportunistic. They don't want to destroy you just to place you beneath them. Their contempt is calibrated, not chaotic. What they want, a predictable you. What they fear, a man with consequences. 2. The parasite, resource extractor. This one uses contempt to keep you giving while feeling too small to demand anything back. The parasite will accept your help, your loyalty, your time, and repay you with coldness, sarcasm, and entitlement. Their contempt is the trick that prevents you from collecting the debt. They will make you feel needy for asking what you're owed. They'll frame your standards as selfish. They'll use morality as a leash. After all I've been through, parasites need you close, controlled, and ashamed of your own needs. What they want, access without accountability. What they fear, being priced. 3. The sadist, emotional predator. This one enjoys it. The sadist uses contempt to injure. They watch your face, your voice, your posture. They want the moment your composure slips, because that moment proves they can reach inside you. They will humiliate you publicly, then pretend it was just honesty. They'll provoke you, then call you unstable when you react. Their contempt is entertainment and dominance at the same time. This archetype is dangerous because you can't cure it with boundaries alone. Boundaries are a challenge to them. They take it personally. They escalate to win. What they want, emotional blood. What they fear, a man they can't affect. 4. The opportunist, social climber. This one doesn't care about you at all. You are a rung. The opportunist uses contempt to align with power. If you're rising, they flatter you. If you're uncertain, they step on you. They read the room first, then decide how to treat you. Their contempt appears when they believe you're losing status. When they sense weakness, they distance themselves by degrading you, so they don't get associated with the lower rank. This is why they disrespect you in front of others. It's a signal, I'm not with him. What they want, immunity through alignment. What they fear, backing the wrong horse. 5. The bureaucrat, rule tyrant. This one hides contempt behind policy, procedure, standards. They don't insult you directly. They bury you with delays, nitpicking, and passive obstruction. Their contempt is slow violence. It says, you'll wait, you'll comply, you don't matter enough for speed. They weaponize formality to dominate. They act polite while treating you as disposable. What they want, control without accountability. What they fear, escalation that exposes them. Now the key. Contempt isn't the same across archetypes, but your mistake is the same every time, over-explaining. You explain to a tester and you look soft. You explain to a parasite and you reinforce entitlement. You explain to a sadist and you feed them. You explain to an opportunist and you confirm you're losing. You explain to a bureaucrat and you become paperwork. So Chapter 3 arms you with the only advantage you ever get in power games, pattern recognition. Once you identify the type, you stop reacting like a man begging for fair treatment and start moving like a man who knows the enemy's doctrine. Contempt is never contained. You think it's between you and them. That's the naive lens, private morality, private feelings, private conversations. But contempt isn't private. It's a signal, and signals travel. One person holding you in contempt is a problem. 2 people copying it is a verdict. A room accepting it is a sentence. That's how the infection works. Contempt doesn't need proof. It needs permission and witnesses. Because humans are not built for truth. They're built for hierarchy. Most people don't investigate who deserves respect. They borrow the crowd's posture. They watch what gets tolerated, then mirror it to stay safe. So when someone disrespects you and you stay, you're not being mature. You're broadcasting a message to every observer. This man can be handled. And once that message is in the air, you don't get to control who repeats it. Contempt is a social weapon, not an emotion. In tribes, courts, armies, and offices, contempt has always been used to downgrade a man without fighting him. You don't need to punch someone to beat him. You can label him. You can turn him into the joke. You can make his voice sound like noise. You can make people roll their eyes when he speaks. That's conquest without blood. History is full of this tactic. Rulers didn't just kill enemies. They humiliated them, paraded them, made them look small. Because humiliation destroys the one thing a man needs to function in a group, perceived authority. And modern life didn't evolve past it. It just got cleaner and quieter. In a workplace, contempt looks like being talked over in meetings, your ideas repeated by someone else and credited to them sarcasm when you set boundaries, forgetting you on key emails, turning your objections into jokes you tell yourself. It's politics. Exactly. And politics is war with smiles. The longer you let it run, the more your status becomes an assumption. Soon you're not an equal, you're a tool. And tools don't get respected. They get used until they break. In relationships, contempt looks like eye rolls and smirks when you speak. You're overreacting. As a default response, public disrespect disguised as honesty. Your standards framed as insecurity, affection, withdrawn like it's a punishment that's not conflict. That's conditioning. The moment contempt enters a bond, it becomes a training collar. Behave how they want or they degrade you. And here's the real threat. Contempt escalates because contempt is never satisfied. It's appetite. Once someone gets comfortable degrading you, they get bolder. They start pushing past words into actions, canceling you, embarrassing you, taking decisions without you, spending your time like it's theirs, using your loyalty as a leash. The timeline gets worse the longer you wait. At first, you still have the benefit of ambiguity. You can correct it with minimal force. But after repetition, contempt becomes the culture. People stop seeing it as rude and start seeing it as true. Then even if you finally react, the room interprets your reaction as proof you're unstable. Not because you are, but because you waited so long you look like a man snapping, not a man enforcing. Delay turns enforcement into drama. That's why contempt is a trap for men who want to choose the high road. The high road becomes a cliff when everyone else is operating on predator logic. Human nature is the enemy here. Most people respect what they fear losing and dismiss what stays no matter what. If your presence is guaranteed, your value drops. If your standards are flexible, your rank becomes negotiable. If you explain yourself under disrespect, you look like a man seeking admission into a club that already rejected him. And the worst part, contempt is contagious even among people who like you. They may not hate you. They may even enjoy you. But they'll still follow the strongest social current. They'll laugh at the joke. They'll stay silent when you're disrespected. They'll let your reputation bleed out because it's easier than standing against the room. So understand the threat clearly. Contempt is not pain. Contempt is reputation warfare. It converts one person's disrespect into group permission and group permission into permanent rank loss. If you don't end it early, you won't be fighting one person. You'll be fighting an entire narrative. You don't end contempt with emotion. You end it with cost. Contempt exists for one reason. It's profitable. It gives them status, leverage, and control while costing them nothing. Your job is not to be understood. Your job is to make contempt an expensive habit. A Machiavellian power move is quiet. No emotion, no debate, just a boundary and an immediate cost. This is the immediate end protocol. It's not motivational, it's surgical. Rule 0, never argue about respect. The moment you argue, you accept the frame that respect is a debate. That turns your dignity into a topic. Topics can be dismissed. Contempt dies when you treat it like a breach, not a conversation. So the protocol is built on 3 levers. Withdraw access, install consequences, project dominance without heat. Heat looks emotional. Heat looks invested. Heat looks like they got inside you. Contempt feeds on heat. Cold ends it. Step 1, the freeze, stop the reward. Contempt is often delivered with a hook. A joke, a jab, a smirk, designed to extract a reaction. A laugh, a defense, a flinch. Do not give it. Your first move is the freeze. A brief pause, neutral face, silence, not wounded, not offended, just nothing. That silence is not passive, it's a signal. That didn't land, and it won't be repeated. Most men rush to fill silence because they fear awkwardness. That fear is your enemy. The freeze reverses the energy. Now they're the one exposed. Then you add one short line, optional but lethal. Don't do that again. Watch your tone. Try that differently. No explanation, no lecture, no morality, just a boundary stated like policy. If they laugh and say, relax, you don't defend yourself. You repeat the boundary once, smaller and colder. I said don't. Not with me. Then you stop talking. That's the first cut. Step 2, the price, immediate consequence. Here's where men fail. They speak a boundary, then keep access the same. That trains contempt to ignore words. Words without consequence are background noise. So you attach a cost, immediate, proportionate, clean. Examples of price in different contexts, social/relationship, you end the interaction. I'm done here. You leave. You remove attention. You stop engaging for a period of time. You cancel plans without drama. Not happening. Work/collaboration, you move communication to written channels. You stop volunteering. Stop rescuing. You escalate formally, not emotionally. The point is not punishment. The point is recalibration. Contempt must start costing them access to your time, your help, your presence, your benefits. If they can disrespect you and still get your labor, your loyalty, your warmth, then contempt is a winning strategy. You make it a losing one. Step 3. The mirror, return reality, not emotion. If the contempt is persistent or public, you use the mirror. The mirror is not an insult. It's a reflection that exposes what they're doing without giving them emotional fuel. Short examples. You're trying to embarrass me. It won't work. You're performing, save it. You want a reaction. You won't get one. Then you disengage. The mirror works because it breaks the spell. It names the tactic. Predators hate when their method is seen. It strips them of plausible deniability. But remember, mirror without withdrawal is theater. You still have to reduce access. Step 4. Scarcity, access becomes conditional. This is the long lever, and it's the one that permanently kills contempt. When someone is contemptuous, you tighten access. You become less available. You respond slower. You stop giving extras. You remove the privileges they got for free. Scarcity turns the equation. It forces them to choose, adjust behavior, or lose you. And here's the cold truth: many won't adjust. Because they never respected you, they only valued what you provided. Good, that's information, that's selection. Step 5, the exit clause, the ultimate power move. If contempt repeats after boundaries and consequences, you don't keep negotiating. You execute the exit clause. That can mean ending the relationship, removing yourself from the environment, or restructuring the interaction so they have no leverage. You don't announce it dramatically. You don't deliver speeches. You don't seek closure. You simply act. Because contempt can't survive around a man who can leave. That's the protocol in one sentence: be calm, set the boundary, attach a cost, reduce access, exit if repeated. Anything else is you feeding the machine. If contempt keeps finding you, it's not bad luck. It's selection. The world selects what it can dominate. People don't accidentally disrespect the man who carries consequences. They search for the man who won't use them. That's the one they can own. So chapter 6 is where the real operation happens. You don't just end contempt in one room. You end the identity that keeps recreating rooms where contempt grows. Because contempt is rarely the first strike. It's the final stage of a pattern. Access given too cheaply, standards expressed too softly, and self-respect outsourced to other people's reactions. The version of you that invites contempt has a signature. It looks like you over-explain because you want to be seen as fair. You tolerate small disrespect to avoid conflict. You trade silence for peace, then call it maturity. You stay available even when you're treated badly. You keep showing loyalty to people who never earned it. That identity believes goodness is protection. It isn't. Goodness without enforcement is weakness with better branding. So the identity has to die. Not the loud version, the fake alpha version. The old version, the one that tries to earn basic respect by being useful, patient, agreeable, and endlessly reasonable. This is how you replace him. 1. Kill the need to be understood. Most men don't want power. They want validation. They want the other person to finally get it and then treat them right. That fantasy makes you controllable, because anyone can mistreat you and keep you hooked by occasionally offering a hint of understanding. Stop chasing understanding. Chase outcomes. A sovereign doesn't ask, "Do you see why that hurt me?" A sovereign decides. That behavior loses access. When you stop needing to be understood, contempt loses its grip, because contempt's greatest weapon is your hope. 2. Replace loyalty with selection. Loyalty is marketed as virtue. In power dynamics, loyalty is often a trap, especially loyalty to people who degrade you. Predators love loyal men. Loyal men stay. Loyal men forgive. Loyal men give it time. Loyal men pay the humiliation tax and call it character. You don't need loyalty, you need selection. Selection means I evaluate, I filter, I reward what's aligned. I remove what isn't. I don't stay because of history, I stay because of standards. If someone shows contempt, that is not a phase. That is data. You don't negotiate with data, you act on it. 3. Build an inner constitution. Men who get disrespected constantly have one thing in common. Their rules are flexible when pressure rises. They have boundaries in their head, not boundaries in reality. So you install a constitution, simple, non-negotiable laws you live by. Disrespect gets one warning, then cost. Repeated disrespect gets distance, not debate. Public disrespect gets immediate separation. Anyone who needs me smaller to feel bigger loses access permanently. You don't announce these laws, you behave them. And behavior is what the world respects. 4. Stop being available as a default. Availability is not kindness, it's pricing. If you're always reachable, always responsive, always ready to repair, your value drops. Not because you're worthless, but because the human mind equates scarcity with power. A sovereign is not hard to reach because he plays games. He's hard to reach because his time is protected territory. When your availability becomes conditional, contempt weakens automatically, because contempt thrives where access is guaranteed. 5. Become the man who can walk away cold. This is the replacement identity. The man who doesn't threaten, doesn't beg, doesn't explode. He simply removes himself. Most people have never been around that. They don't know how to manipulate it. They can't shame it. They can't bait it into emotional chaos. That's why it works. Because the final form of power is not intimidation. It's indifference backed by action. Contempt dies around a man who doesn't need approval, doesn't worship peace, and doesn't barter with disrespect. So here's the identity replacement in one line. You stop being the man who asks to be treated well and become the man who only allows what he respects. That's not therapy, that's sovereignty. Here's the final warning, and it's not comforting. Contempt doesn't end when they realize your value. Contempt ends when your presence becomes a privilege and disrespect becomes a liability. Most men will hear everything you've heard so far and still fail, because they'll try to apply power like a costume. They'll do the freeze once, the boundary once, the consequence once, then they'll feel guilty and go back to the old self. And the world will read that relapse like a confession. He's not serious. That's how contempt returns, stronger, because the second time isn't a test. It's a punishment for your previous resistance. Predators resent the moment you almost escaped their control. So when you return, they tighten the leash. They escalate, not because you did something wrong, but because you taught them you can be pressured back into submission. So understand this. Your first correction is not the battle. Your consistency is. Contempt is a long game. It waits for your fatigue. It waits for your loneliness. It waits for the moment you crave harmony more than sovereignty. Then it walks back in, smiling, and treats you like property again. That's why the final rule is brutal. You cannot be half sovereign. Half sovereign is still conquerable. The three endgame errors that keep men contemptible: 1. The negotiator thinks respect can be won with logic, fairness, and explanations. He tries to clear things up. He wants mutual understanding. He wants a healthy conversation, but contempt is not a misunderstanding. It's a dominance position. When you negotiate your dignity, you downgrade it. You turn it into a request, and requests are denied by default. 2. The avenger tries to end contempt with rage, threats, insults, explosions. He thinks aggression equals power, but rage is exposure. It tells them where your buttons are. It tells the room you're unstable. It gives your opponent a story to sell. See, he's emotional. Rage makes you easy to frame. A calm man is hard to frame. 3. The martyr tolerates contempt and calls it strength. He believes suffering proves virtue. He stays loyal. He stays present. He absorbs disrespect like it's his job. That's not strength. That's training others to despise you. No one respects a man who refuses to protect himself. The final model: sovereignty, selection, scarcity. If you take one thing, take this. You are not trying to stop contempt. You are building a profile that contempt cannot attach to. That profile is made of 3 behaviors. Call it what it is: Machiavellian sovereignty. You don't chase dignity. You price it, protect it, and remove access from anyone who violates it. Sovereignty. You govern your time, your attention, your standards like territory. Selection. You filter people based on behavior, not history, not feelings, not promises. Scarcity. Access to you is conditional and earned, not automatic. When those 3 are real, contempt has nowhere to land. The moment it appears, it hits consequence, like a hand touching a hot stove. Final warning: the room is always watching. Every time you tolerate contempt, someone is watching. Maybe not physically, but socially. Your tolerance becomes your reputation. Men don't get disrespected in one place and respected everywhere else. Status leaks. It bleeds into posture, decisions, tone, the way you speak, the way you hesitate. Contempt is not a moment. It's a label, and labels follow you. So if you're serious, you stop playing the good man role and start playing the sovereign man reality. Not loud, not cruel, just ungovernable. If you want this to become instinct, not information, then you don't just watch. You train your silence, train your boundaries, train your consequences, train your exits, because the world doesn't reward men who know the rules. It rewards men who enforce them under pressure. If you're ready to operate like that, if you're ready to become hard to handle, say it in the comments with one word: sovereign. And if you're not ready, keep being nice. Just don't act surprised when contempt keeps finding you.